Want honest, non-influenced reviews over assistive and mainstream technology from a blind person's perspective? Check out the Teachability reviews on our website.
The opinions expressed on Teachavision are solely those of the guests and hosts and do not represent other companies or third parties. Thank you for listening.
Hello, and welcome to Teachavision, a podcast by Screenless Allies, where everyone has a different vision of learning. And now, here's your host, Jose Briceño.
Hello there! Welcome to Teachavision episode number 51. Thank you for joining us today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. And on this episode, we're going to continue the reviews. This series will cover the most recent unit from Help Tech, which is the Activator. You heard us talk about it before, but now, thanks to Damian Pickering and Dream Vision Group, who distribute the Help Tech products here in the United States, we have one for you that we can demonstrate. And on this part of the review, we're just going to take you through the orientation of the device. We hope that you enjoy this multi-part review right here on Teachavision by Screenless Allies. Alrighty, to begin this review, rather than me telling you what the Activator is, how about we go to a flashback where all of us in Orlando, Florida, talked a little bit about what this Braille display is. The Activator is actually made by Help Tech, but distributed by Dream Vision Group here in Texas. This device is a hybrid. So you notice that we have a review of the Mantis Q40 on our website, and we have a review of the Brailliant displays from Humanware. One of them is a Braille keyboard, which is the Brailliant. One of them has a QWERTY keyboard, which is the Mantis. Picture that, but picture it in a hybrid device where if you flip, it starts off in Braille with the Braille keyboard, and if you flip it over, it turns into a QWERTY keyboard and, magically.
Beautiful QWERTY keyboard.
Yeah. It was the best thing that we could ever see. We're just like, we never thought this would happen. And it's designed for iPhone as well. So you can actually do a little bit more things with the iPhone with more apps and such. I think we can all concur that we all thought that the Activator was probably one of the best devices.
And then they also made the Activator in an 80 cell, a full-blown keyboard with the numpad and all of the function keys and then some. It was mammoth, but how cool would that be?
Another cool thing is that actually those don't have some keys to move.
That's right.
You can read till the end
and it
on
detects.
both models.
Yeah, it detects.
And it detects.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it detects it and it moves over.
The refresh rate on it is fast. Super fast.
Yeah.
And you don't even hear it. Some Braille displays you can hear when someone's pushing the thumb keys or someone's reading. But this one was very quiet, at least from what we heard in the exhibit hall.
It's very quiet. You can't even hear it.
Alrighty, so there you go. There's your explanation. Now, as we go through this review, I'm also going to cover the Activator Pro series. So those would be the 64 and the 80 cell. The device I have is the Activator 40. So this is one thing to keep in mind as we continue with this review. Now then, to start off, we're going to look at the orientation of the device. Now, of course, you take it out of the box. But what else is in this box? Well, in this box, apart from the Activator itself, you're going to find 2 USB cables of different lengths. You have some getting started material and some applications on the famous Start Stick. This is also on the Active Braille, so this is very familiar. You have a satchel. Yes, I did say a satchel. The manual says it's a carrying case, but it's a satchel. Now, the cool thing about this satchel is you can not only store the Activator inside it, but you can also store another device in there. So if you have an iPad or if you have a tablet, for example, I have a Melee Quieter PC, which if you read the article, The Screenless Ally, that is a device that would fit. It's the little mini desktop. And honestly, I have actually taken the Activator with me to test out with this PC, and it fits like a glove. Really, it is a very tiny device, that Melee PC. So you have literally a little powerhouse of the Activator, the PC in this situation for my example, and the charging cable for the activator and the adapter for the PC. It's really, really nice. So yes, it's not your conventional carry case like you would expect from other Braille devices, but it does the trick. It protects it. Now, it would be cool to see a leather case, such as the ones that you find on all these other new Braille displays. Now then, apart from that satchel, you also get a smart dock. Now, we'll talk about that in a second, but you can actually purchase a smart dock if you wanted to. For now, let's get the activator and let's put it on the desk and let's go to the unit. Now, this unit, if you've heard the Active Braille review, it looks pretty similar, but we're going to go over this device as well because there are a couple of differences. One major difference between the Activator 40 and the Activator Pro series is that the Pros do not have a battery. So they're powered via USB, which is on the left side of those units. This device was designed for more office productivity and was designed to be stationary. So you have a USB port on the left and then another USB port on the right for the purpose of connecting another tablet or another PC or an iPhone or iPad. All right, so we're going to start off at the front of the unit. If you go up, there's the two space bars that you came to know and love from the Active Braille. And these are, well, two space bars you can use for pressing space. Yes, they still have that convention of using the two space bars on these devices. And in the middle of those space bars is the joystick. So this joystick can move up, down, left, and right. And it is used for the arrow keys on either the device or the computer. And on iOS, it's used to flick left and right when you move it left and right, and flick up and down if you move it down. And of course, if you push it, you select items. I also need to mention that the space bars are called SPCL and SPC right, left space and right space. And like I said on the Active Braille review, the commands in the manual may have you press a left space or a right space key. Otherwise, it will say a chord. Remember the chorded commands from the old note-taker days? Well, this is back. So if you hear press an M chord, we mean press space with the letter M. 1, 3, 4. Above that is the concave Braille display. Now, what I really liked about this Braille display compared to the Active Braille is that the concaveness, if that's even a word, of the device is not as exaggerated. It's actually a little bit less noticeable, but it can still be comfortable to read, honestly. So yeah, this is a concave. There's 40 cells. Of course, with the 64 and with the 80 cell displays, you're going to have those numbers of cells respectively. Above that are the touch cursors, which are a lot smaller. They're about half the size of the lines on the Active Braille, but they're still raised lines that you can just push. To the left and right sides of the display cells themselves, you're going to find 3 rectangular keys, one with a line in the middle on each side. Now, this, if you remember from the Active Braille review, this was your rocker bar to move the display up or down during text, or if you needed to select something, you could hit the middle concaved round part of the button. Well, Help Tech decided to turn this into actual buttons, which is nice. Sometimes when I use the Active Braille, you had to figure out how to hit it just right to hit the enter command or the back command. So from top to bottom, it's oriented like a Braille cell. So the names of these buttons are N1, N2, N3, N4, N5, and N6. That's N1 through 3 on the left, N4 through 6 on the right. Now that we covered those two things, you're going to notice above the cursor buttons a little step up. Don't worry about that for now. We will talk about the step up in a second because it is important. Above the cursor buttons is the Braille keyboard. There are 6 dots, of course, with the backspace and enter. And then in the middle is the space bar. Again, like the other Help Tech display models. Now this keyboard, I must admit, I actually preferred the harder, quieter keyboard from the Active Braille. And compared to this, the Active Braille keyboard had the laptop style square keys. The Activator has the rectangular keys like you would be used to on a Braille device. So there's the rectangles, and then the dot 2 and 5 are a little closer to the top than dots 3 and 6 and 1 and 4. So it's a little bit conventional, but honestly, I prefer the keyboard that is harder from the Active Braille series, but it still works for sure. Alrighty, we're going to look at the sides of the unit. We're going to start off at the left side of the unit, and you're going to find a power button. Now, the power button's a little flush with the unit. The cool thing about this is the power button is made out of a smooth plastic, whereas the rest of the activator, if you felt the sides and the bottom where the space bars are, it's rougher. So you won't have an issue distinguishing where the power button is because it is more pronounced in the plastic. Behind that, you have the USB-C port, which can be used to connect to computers or other devices and charging. There's nothing on the back of the unit except for just a small plastic. It looks like a small plastic piece of, let's say, like folder material for schools, but it actually holds something together that we're going to talk about in a second. But that's pretty much it. On the right side, you're going to notice, well, there's nothing here except for like some holes. There's really nothing important. Yes, actually, this is important. This is where you connect the smart dock, and we'll talk about that later.
Looking for some basic tips on how to use both assistive and mainstream technology in general? Check out the Teachability section on our website.
Now, you ask yourself, well, Jose, what is this step up for? Well, the step up above the keyboard is important, as I said before, and you're about to find out why. Go to the left and right hand sides of your activator where the step up is. So go to the left and right sides of your keyboard there, and you're going to find two tabs. Let's lift those up first. That is very important. Let's lift those up first, and we're going to open the unit to the back. And when you do that, it reveals a QWERTY keyboard. Now, the keyboard is pretty comfortable, and it's not too loud, but you can definitely tell that the keys are not too hard to type on. Again, I honestly prefer the keys to be a little more harder because I feel like if you did that, then they would last a little longer. Before we continue, I just want to specify that this keyboard is only available on the 40. The Pro Series already has a full-size desktop keyboard, so you don't have to worry about the tabs or anything. One thing to note that on the Pro models, where the Smart Dock port is located on the right, is another USB-C port. You can use this to connect to other devices as well. This is not for charging, but you can use both USB ports, though, for two devices at once, which is really, really nice. All right, then, continuing on. On the QWERTY keyboard on the activator, there are a couple of similarities and differences. So, obviously, we know that the 40 does not have a number pad. You're also going to notice that the rows of keys start with numbers instead of function keys. Don't panic, because there is a way to get those function keys. I feel like this keyboard, because the Activator 40 was optimized for things like the iPhone, this keyboard reminds me so much of those Apple Magic keyboards, which, if I remember correctly, do not even have number pads. So now then, from top to bottom, you have the number row, and then all the rest of these keys are what you came to know. However, when you move to the bottom, where there's Z, X, C, V, and B, to the left of Z is a key that on the computer, it says it's the / key. I wish you could remap that key to do something else. And then to the left of that is the shift key. I don't know why they made the shift key a little smaller. They should have made it a little bigger. I don't understand. But that's okay, though. It's a bit of an adjustment, but it can be done. To the right of the semicolon key and the apostrophe key, you're going to find the / key. Now, you're asking yourself, well, isn't / above enter? Yes. On regular computer keyboards, it is above the enter key. But HelpTech decided to put the / to the right of the apostrophe key and the enter key to the right of the / key. But instead of the enter key going horizontally from left to right, they turned the enter key vertically. Again, this might require an adjustment, but it's not too difficult once you get used to it. So those are a couple of adjustments that need to be done. We're going to talk about the arrow keys and things like that. So, on the arrow keys, there are, on the very right-hand corner of the device, the down arrow key has a line on it on the bottom of the key. So we have down, up, left, and right. Above the right arrow key is the end key, And above the end key is the home key. Above home is going to be delete. And above delete and to the right of backspace is the insert key. So this is actually nice for screen reader users that rely on the insert key, because a lot of screen reader commands rely on the insert key for this stuff. So now then, you're asking yourself, well, Jose, where is page up and page down? Well, if you have Activator version 1.4 and below, you can access these by pressing the function key and up arrow for page up and down arrow for page down. If you have Activator version 2.0, which was released a couple of days ago from the time of this recording, there's no page up and page down key that we found. Unfortunately, that was taken over by another feature that we're going to talk about in a second, and I'm not sure why that happened. I think Help Tech should have mapped this to something else, and I'm sure they will get that fixed in a future version. But if you have a Pro, you don't have to worry about any of this. You have nothing to worry about. The desktop keyboard has everything on it. Like I said before, it has your 6-pack. So you're used to the delete end page down, insert home page up. That's where they are going to be. There's nothing different about that desktop keyboard. I don't have one in front of me, like I said before. On the Pro Series, if you go above the number keys, you're going to find the function keys F1 through F12 like you normally would. But above that, you're going to find another set of 12 keys. What are these, you ask yourself? Well, they're F13 through F24. Now, these keys are programmable. That being said, you can use these keys to launch applications on Windows, for example. So let's say I wanted to create a shortcut to Microsoft Word. Well, you would go into Properties, you would Control-Tab until you hear Shortcut, and then you would tab until you hear Shortcut, and then you can press one of those programmable keys. In this situation, for my example, you would press F13. Once you hit that, you would go to Apply, then OK. Now, there is a known bug, and even the manual states there is a bug where Windows does not recognize the fact that there is a key in there, but the key does work. So you can still use that key to open Microsoft Word in this scenario. To the right of F24, you're going to find 3 more keys. So these are special keys. Now, the manual calls them special left, special right, and Braille key. But for sake of simplicity, which honestly I think should have been considered in the manual, we're going to call them S1 through S3. The first key on that special row toggles between Bluetooth devices and USB. So think of it as your little channel switcher. So on the Activator 40, that would be the equivalent of switching channels with the power button. To the right of that is the Braille split key. So this turns on that feature, and we'll explain that a little bit later on in the review. To the right of that, you're going to find another special key, which enables Braille input. So if you don't want to write with the whole computer keyboard and you want to keep writing in Braille, you can do so. And when that happens, it locks pretty much all your keyboard, but keeps SDF and JKL as your Braille keys on the home row. If you have an Activator Pro 80, then to the right of the number pad, you're going to see 10 more keys. I know, so many buttons. Well, these 10 keys are very similar to the F13 to 24 keys on the top of the keyboard. However, the difference is that these control the Activator's internal features. These are labeled QA1 to QA10, and they're arranged in a huge Braille cell. So they would be on the left Q1, to the right Q2, below that to the left Q3, to the right Q4, etc., etc. If you have a 64 and you want to still use those functions, you can press the function key with the numbers 1 through 0 as the equivalent, since the 64 does not have these keys on board.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Teachavision. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to check out previous shows, which are equally informative and fun as this one. Make sure to also check out our website at screenlessallies.com. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/ScreenlessAlliesOfficial. Do you have any suggestions or comments? Why not email us, info@screenlessallies.com. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.